Good afternoon and welcome to our interview with Dr. Cynthia Sisson. She comes to CSU from Louisiana State University in Shreveport, and she will be telling us a little bit more now about the seminar that she just gave for the faculty here on Dino software and the tablet PCs that she titled Trading Lecture for Learning. It's an intriguing title, so we'll follow up and learn more details about it. Before we start, maybe a few words about Dr. Sisson. She got her Bachelor of Science in Physics from New Mexico Tech, and she got her PhD in Computational Physics from University of South Carolina. She was primarily dealing with simulations of high-temperature superconductors at that time, but more recently she's been working on simulations of light propagation through human tissue. She is the first endowed Elmer Simon Distinguished Teaching Professor at LSUS, and for the last maybe 10 years or so, right? She's been involved with the science education in a variety of different ways, and in particular through the first NSF FIRST program. That's the acronym that stands for Faculty Institutes for Reforming Science Teaching. And this is an NSF program that she's been involved for past 5 years or so, right?
5, 7, yeah.
Right. Now, with that, I would like to turn over and ask Dr. Sisson to tell us a little bit more about this technology that she presented today about and how she uses it in her introductory physics classes.
Well, sure. So the first question is, what is a tablet computer? And the first thing that you need to understand with a tablet computer is that it's a computer that you can actually write on as a tablet. So I wanted my students to be able to solve physics problems in a way in which that they, in the same way that they would be solving problems on paper. So students actually write on their tablets, and here, you know, I'm actually writing on a thermal energy problem, but we're solving problems as in the same way in which that we would be solving problems on paper. So we can draw diagrams, we can write out equations, we can do everything that we do on paper, but we have the speed of technology for communication so that we can actually, I as the professor can see what my students are doing very quickly.
So how would this look like if you did not have a tablet PC?
This would be a wall of chalkboards or whiteboards with me walking around trying to figure out what the students were doing, or it would be a bunch of transparencies. Actually, I've tried that in the classroom, and you get transparency, you get ink all over your fingers when you try to go through and see what the students have done. It would be much slower. I had tried it without technology, and I was frustrated by it because it was too slow. I needed something that was faster and something that let me look at student work, find the really good examples, and then put those examples up on a projector and show my students, this is what I like, this is why I like it. Or even better, put it up on the projector and have my students explain, this is what's good. And I can do that without letting them see the bad examples, which is what you get if you put it on the whiteboard or the chalkboard.
So basically you're saying you're presenting their own examples as they solved them on their tablets.
I am presenting student work to students, exactly. But I'm only presenting the good work.
All right. Now, there seem to be two parts to the whole process, right? One is tablet PC, and you just told us what hardware looks like. But another part is this software. Can you tell us more about how they interplay and what?
Absolutely. The software was very important. The first semester that I tried to do this, I wound up using some software that didn't do the job. It kept crashing on me. And so we used a shared network drive. Students would upload their work to the network drive. I would then open up 20 different files and look over their work and pick out the one or two that I wanted to present. So I could still do most of what I wanted to do there, but it was slow. I was still losing time to just looking through different files. With Dino, which is what I'm using now, with Dino it's great because I can very quickly flip through student submissions. I don't have to wait for them to upload it. I can actually look and see what they're doing at any time, and as they're doing it, I can actually interrupt them if they are all heading off in the wrong direction. I can just stop and say, whoa, 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 stop. You know, you need to be thinking about this instead of that. I can catch them as they're making mistakes, correct those mistakes, and get everybody going the right direction. It's been wonderful to have a software that actually lets me do that. And it has all the other bells and whistles as well. It can do student polling. Mm-hmm. You can ask questions of students. You can have different groups of students on different tablets collaborating together on the same problem. Mm-hmm. Lots of fun things to do.
Okay, so basically, let me pull back just a step and try to make sure that we see the big picture with the technology that you're using. So all of your students, or one or two of your students, are sharing one tablet PC. Yes. You have your tablet PC, and now as you write physics problems and doing your lecture, you're not anymore doing that on the chalkboard or on the whiteboard. You're doing that annotating on tablet PC. Now, as you do that, what does the software do as you write?
So if I'm using the software in the in lecture mode, where I'm actually talking and working through problems, as I write on my tablet computer, what my students see is that writing showing up on their tablet computer. So they actually are immediately fed my work. They don't have to be going through the process of taking what they see up on the screen and transcribing it to their notes. It's already there in their notes.
So do you see a problem with them possibly phasing out and just letting you do the work and not participating? And because
I don't let them do that because I'm not using this technology to do a traditional lecture. I'm not using the technology to stand there and give a lecture in which I'm writing down information and my students are copying it. Instead, I'm using it so that I might write a little bit, I might get them started on a problem, but then immediately it pushes off and onto their shoulders, and they have to do the next step.
So basically what you were telling us is the situation when they write on their tablets and solve the problems that you assign to them. Do they do this individually, in groups?
They do this in groups. I was originally concerned about the fact that I had more students than I had tablet computers, but it turned out to be a wonderful serendipitous problem to have, because that forced my students to work together. It forced them to work around a single tablet computer, and they worked cooperatively so much better because there was this piece of technology sitting between them that they had to share to solve the problems. I had been trying to get students to work in groups for 3, 4, 5 semesters prior to this, working through problems, and I had, these are science majors, and some of them take themselves very seriously, and I had in some classes a whole set of students who would just kind of cross their arms and not talk to each other, or say, B, yeah, I think the answer is B, and that's it. That's as much as they would get in terms of collaborating. Put them in front of a tablet computer and say, solve this problem, work it out, have things that they can write on, and know that their work is going to be shown up on the screen, and suddenly they're talking and they're interacting, and they're sometimes stealing the computer from each other and saying, no, I think that's wrong. It becomes much more collaborative. It really forces that collaboration.
Now, you mentioned that it's now easier for you to figure out what they're doing.
Yes.
So are you going around the classroom and just looking into their tablet PCs as they do that, or is there?
The software does that for me, so I can pull up, I can either ask them to submit what they have done when they're done with it, and that means that I know that I'm seeing what they think is the final answer, that they think that they are completely done with this problem. Or the other way that I can do it is I can basically peer over their shoulder as they're solving it in a technological sense, which is that Dino allows me to actually download their work as they're doing it and see, are you on track? Are you working towards the end goal? What kind of progress are you making? That also lets me time my classes a little bit better, because now I don't have to ask, okay, are you done? Are you getting close to being done? And they don't have time to go off and do things like, play solitaire and stuff like that.
Right. So basically, you're seeing all of this from your computer as
Yes.
they submit. What do they say? How much do they like it? How much did it take for them to get used to it?
I spend one day at the start of the semester Just introducing them to the software, doing some very simple problems, and then also taking them through all of the different things that they will have to use throughout the semester, and giving up that first day to get them acquainted with the software just pays dividends throughout the semester, because then they know how to use it and they can use it smoothly, seamlessly for the rest of the semester. So I do definitely recommend get them used to it in the first recitation. The first day you use it, they'll be fine with it from then on out.
The software appears pretty user-friendly in this respect, right? It doesn't take long before they're up to it.
Right. It's a technological generation, and it's pretty much what you expect. So they can figure it out quickly.
Right. Now, you were telling us just earlier about the results, meaning as neat as it seems, after all, we want them to learn better.
Right.
And the question is whether or not it makes sense to spend all of this money on hardware and software. So can you tell us more about what did you find?
Sure. So it's not just a toy. It's not just something to make them say gee whiz and hope that and hope that they enjoy the class more. They enjoy the recitations, they like it, but also they are learning. They are more successful. So I've seen an increase in problem-solving skills in my classes because of this, and I have seen an increase in success rates, which surprised me a lot. Success rates being the number of students getting A's, B's, and C's compared to the number of students getting D's, F's, and W's. In one class I went from, historically in introductory physics, we had a baseline of somewhat less than 60% of our students getting A's, B's, and C's in that class, and some semesters it was down as far as 40% or sub 40%.
Right.
And in the class where I implemented this first, the number of students who got A's, B's, and C's jumped up to almost 80%. So it almost doubled from the lowest that I had seen, and it went up by 2 standard deviations from what the baseline average was for that class.
In terms of their retention, how about their scores?
In terms of their scores, I used a paired final exam, so I used a final exam from a final year. And in my university physics and my calculus-based physics class, they went up by a significant amount. They went up by 11% on the final exam. I think the first time I gave that final without the tablets, the class average was 57%, which is not a class average that I like to see. And it went up into the very high 60s when they took it after having had a semester in which we worked on problems using Dino and tablet computers.
Right. So you're basically saying you were able to increase the number of students that succeed in the course, that do not drop off, and within this larger pool, you had higher success rate in terms of the success at their final exam, right?
That's right, and that was the part that surprised me. I was hoping to see better problem-solving skills, but what I didn't really understand was that I was also keeping more students to get all the way to the final exam.
Right, right.
So I'm actually keeping more students. Fewer students are dropping, fewer students are switching to audit. And they are, when they get to the final exam, they're performing at the same level or at a better level than my previous classes. So I've got the same standards, but my students are now rising to meet those standards. It's been very fun to see that this is a way in which I can help my students, get up to that level that I expect.
Right. You were showing us earlier features of the software, and you showed some transfer of slide. When you clicked on the slide, it appeared on our screens. When you annotated, that annotation was showing up. You also showed we can chat back to you.
Right.
You can we can list multiple choice question, and we can give you the feedback, and you have immediate results. We can submit the slides and so on. All of these features. Would there be one that you would pick up as your favorite?
Oh, I couldn't do this without the ability to grab student work and pull it onto my computer and look at it immediately. The polling feature I like, but I can do that with clickers, and I do that with clickers on the days when I'm not using tablet computers. But the fact that my students can write and draw, they can use equations, they can draw pictures, they can draw, this is physics, so force body diagrams, they have all of that, and I can look at it and see it immediately. That is the most important, that's the most important feature for me. It might not be for other people, but it's, physics is such a visual field that's what I need, and that's why I use this.
Right. Do you see this equally valuable or applicable in other fields? Maybe math and engineering as maybe similar fields, but maybe also other fields like psychology, sociology, geography, history?
Certainly throughout the sciences, I can see that it would be valuable. I've taught a few introductory computer science classes because I'm a computational physicist, and this would have been really useful in those intro programming classes. It would not have to be so visual there. We wouldn't need the pictures and the drawing and the equations, but you could immediately see that having students, type in a code fragment that does the following thing. You can pull it up. And actually you could split a screen and have two groups doing it simultaneously, and they can see, are we solving this problem the same way as another group is? Because sometimes you've got multiple ways of getting to the same right answer. Right. Computer science, I think, would be great. Math, it's fabulous. Again, you've got something that works like a piece of paper, but you can also go in and see what the students are doing and show right answers and stuff like that. Chemistry, some chemists at my university have been using it. Mm-hmm. Biology, our genetics professor has been using it in her class. All of those, very useful. I don't know well enough how I would apply it in other areas, but I really think that it would be very useful, especially for the collaborative elements in it. You can get students working collaboratively either around a single tablet or even between different tablets. You can actually group people randomly, or you can group them in ways that you want within the software, mm-hmm. and say, come up with a solution to this particular problem. Right. So you don't have to be sitting right next to each other to
right.
solve the problem.
Right.
You can actually have people on opposite sides of the room working on the same problem, working on it together. It also means they get to know more people in their class than they would. They don't just know the little geographic area around them, they know everybody.
Right. So could we conclude with your suggestion for other university professors? What would be your take on how they might benefit from this technology?
Well, I think that it's our responsibility as university professors to try to help our students succeed. We know what we want our students to know and learn. We know what we want. We know how we want our students to demonstrate that knowledge, but we need to figure out the ways in which we can get them there. And I think that using as many different interactive, collaborative ways as we can to get our students there is one way. I think that using software like this, having engaged classrooms, something more than just a professor at the front of the room lecturing, all of those are ways in which we can help our students succeed.
Right. And would this be applicable for different educational levels as well as different fields?
Oh, sure. It's used everywhere from elementary schools up through upper level classes and graduate classes. So I think it's appropriate.
I want to thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to have you during the interview. It's been a pleasure listening to your seminar just earlier.